If you keep coming home with things you didn't plan to buy, the answer might not be that you need a stricter budget. You might just need a few better shopping rules. I'm Joy of Frugal Creative Living, and most of the money I save while shopping isn't saved by finding a better coupon. It's saved by the rules that I follow before anything ever reaches my cart. Because once an item is in the cart, especially if it's marked down or it looks useful or it appears to be the last one on the shelf, it becomes surprisingly easy to convince myself that buying it is somehow a public service. So today I'm sharing the shopping rules that save me the most money. They're simply little decision-making shortcuts that help me avoid buying things I don't need, won't use, or are going to regret bringing home. And you don't have to adopt every rule. Just choose the ones that solve the shopping problems that actually show up when you go shopping. Rule 1 is to check what you already have. Before I make a shopping list, I shop my own house. For groceries, that means checking the pantry, the refrigerator, and the freezer. For household supplies, it might mean looking under the sink or in the linen closet or wherever extra toiletries go to huddle as they plan their escape. This rule prevents 2 expensive problems. The first is buying duplicates. One extra bottle of something might not seem important, but repeatedly buying things because we can't remember what we own ties up money that we could be spending on something else, and it creates clutter. The second problem it solves is overlooking something that could replace what we plan to buy. Maybe I don't have the exact ingredient in a recipe, but I might have something that'll work. Or maybe I don't need to buy another storage container because an empty jar will do the job. Or maybe the wrapping paper I forgot about is hiding behind the holiday decorations. Checking first doesn't mean that you can never buy anything new. It simply gives what you already paid for the chance to do its job. Now, if doing an inventory of the entire house sounds exhausting, and it is, don't do it. Check only the area that's connected to that shopping trip. 5 focused minutes should be enough. Rule number 2, shop from a written list. This rule is about deciding what I'm shopping for before I'm surrounded by things asking to come home with me. A list gives the trip a purpose. It also gives me something objective to return to when I spot a pretty display or a limited time offer. And I prefer a fairly specific list, even if it's not exhaustive. So instead of writing produce, I write the actual fruits and vegetables. I need grapes, oranges, apples, celery, green peppers. And instead of writing household or cleaners, I write dish soap, cleanser, disinfectant spray, etc. The more vague the list is, the more room there is for creative interpretation. And somehow creative interpretation in a store usually costs more money. This does not mean that I can never buy something that isn't on the list, because occasionally I will remember a legitimate need once I'm in the store, or I'll find a useful substitute or see an unusually good deal or opportunity. But an unlisted item still has to pass my rules before it earns a place in the cart. The list is a guide, not a prison. Rule 3, know the purpose of the trip. Before going into a store or opening a shopping app, I try to know exactly why I'm there. Am I buying groceries, and are they just for this week or for 2 weeks? Am I replacing worn out shoes? Am I looking for a specific birthday gift or comparing prices for a future purchase? That purpose matters because stores are really good at turning one errand into 7 unrelated purchasing opportunities. Now, I may enter a store for toothpaste and suddenly find myself evaluating seasonal pillows. The pillows didn't become necessary during the walk from the entrance to the pharmacy aisle. I was simply exposed to them. And when I notice that that's happening, that's when I return to the purpose of the trip. If I'm browsing just to entertain myself, I try to be honest about that too, because browsing isn't morally wrong, but it is riskier when I pretend that I'm completing an essential errand when really I'm trying to set myself up to shop. Rule 4, a sale doesn't create a need. This may be the rule that has saved me from the greatest number of questionable purchases. A sale lowers the price. It does not create a need. Half price is still full waste, if an item sits unused. When I see a markdown, I ask whether I would have wanted the item if the sale sign weren't there. If the answer is no, then the discount, not the item, is doing most of the selling. So I also look at the dollars that I'll spend, not just the percentage I'll save. Save 40% sounds exciting, but spend $36 on something I wasn't planning to buy is a much clearer description of what's actually happening. Sales are useful when they reduce the cost of something I already planned to purchase or I know I'll use and can reasonably store somewhere. They become expensive when I start buying products for some imaginary future version of myself. Rule 5, don't buy for your fantasy life. And this one can be uncomfortable, but it is definitely effective. I try to buy for the life I actually live, not the life I imagine I might begin living because I purchased the correct accessories. Will I truly wear this? Will I cook this or maintain this? Or do I simply just like the identity attached to it? And there's nothing wrong with trying something new. But if I'm buying for a new habit or a hobby, I've learned to start small. I do not need the professional collection before I've even completed the beginner project. I don't need a month's supply of an unfamiliar food because the large package has a better unit price. And I don't need 6 versions of something before I know whether I like the first one. Let the habit earn the equipment. And that approach leaves room for creativity and growth without requiring an expensive commitment at the beginning. Rule 6, calculate the real cost. The price on the tag isn't always the full cost of owning something. I always ask whether the purchase requires accessories or refills, maintenance, storage, special cleaning, or some other purchase in order for it to be useful. A bargain appliance isn't a bargain if it needs supplies that I have to keep buying over and over and counter space I don't have. Discount clothing isn't inexpensive if it requires shoes or undergarments that I have to now purchase separately. And a large quantity of food isn't economical if part of it is going to spoil. Sometimes the real cost isn't the money, it's the space, the time, the upkeep, and the mental clutter. And I'm not trying to make every decision overly complicated. For an ordinary purchase, this can be a 10-second question. What else will I need if I bring this home? If the answer is nothing, wonderful. If the answer sounds like the beginning of a second shopping trip, then I pause. Rule 7, give unplanned purchases a waiting period. We've heard it a million times. For non-essential purchases that I didn't plan, I use a waiting period. Depending on the item, that could be 24 hours, several days, or even longer if it's a significant purchase. Sometimes I'll take a photo of the item or write the item down, save it to a wish list, or just leave it in the online cart, but I don't immediately buy it. And this works because urgency is often part of the sales environment, not part of my actual need. Once I'm away from the store, I can ask better questions. I have a chance to look around my house and ask, where will this even go? What do I already own that serves the same purpose? Would I rather keep the money for something else instead of spending it on that thing? Sometimes I return and I buy the item. The waiting rule isn't an automatic no. It's a way of making sure that the decision belongs to me rather than to the mood of that moment. And quite often by the next day, I can barely remember why I wanted the thing. And that is useful information. For a genuine emergency, an essential replacement, or a rare item that you've already researched, waiting may not make sense because this rule is for those spontaneous ones that are disguised as urgent needs. Rule 8, decide where it will live. Before I buy a physical object, I try to answer one simple question. Where will this live? Not I'll find somewhere. No, we want an actual location. If the pantry shelf is full, then bulk groceries need a plan. If the closet is crowded, new clothes may need to replace something. If the craft supplies have outgrown their space, another project kit may not be the cheerful little treat that it appears to be. This rule connects spending with the reality of living in a finite space. The store gives every item a lovely, well-lit home, but once we purchase it, housing it becomes our responsibility. If I know exactly where something will go and how I'll use it, that's a positive sign. But if I picture myself wandering around the house holding it after the shopping bag is unpacked, I probably need to reconsider. Rule 9, don't let free shipping choose the order. Online shopping creates its own special temptations, and the free shipping threshold is one of the most effective. If I need a $22 item and shipping costs $6, spending another $28 to save the shipping fee does not save me $6. It costs me an additional $22. Sometimes it makes sense to wait and then just combine legitimate purchases. Sometimes store pickup is available and that'll be your better option. And occasionally, paying the shipping charge is the least expensive choice. I try to compare the final totals instead of treating shipping like it's money that has to be spent at all costs. Free shipping is lovely when it happens naturally. It is less lovely when it arrives escorted by 3 things that I didn't need. Rule 10, leave room to walk away. My final rule is that I have permission to leave without buying. I can compare prices and decide that they're too high. I can try something on and realize it isn't right. I can spend time researching and still decide not to purchase. The time I spent looking does not obligate me to finish the transaction. Walking away is especially useful when I feel confused or pressured, overly excited or tired, because those are not my finest decision-making conditions. If it's a good purchase today, it may still be a good purchase after I've had time to think about it. If it disappears, I might be disappointed, but disappointment usually costs a lot less than a house full of regretted purchases. The goal of these rules isn't to remove all fun from shopping or make you suspicious of every item that you like. The goal is to put a little space between seeing something and spending money on it. Your most useful rules might be different from mine. If food waste is your biggest problem, checking your inventory might save you the most. If online impulse shopping gets you, the waiting period might be the winner for you. If clearance aisles are your natural habitat, remember that a sale does not create a need. Just choose 2 or 3 rules and just practice them until they become automatic. That's much easier than trying to summon this perfect willpower during every shopping trip. Tell me in the comments which shopping rule saves you the most money or which one you want to try next. And remember, spending less isn't about making life smaller. It's about keeping more of your money available for the things that genuinely make your life work better. And I'll see you next time. Bye.